Here we go now. Here we go now. Here we go now.
And here we are. It is Wednesday night. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with my lovely co-host, Howard Bender, streaming live for all of you. We want you in the chat, so get that BSN app going. Howard, I was listening to you before you hopped on here. How are you, my friend?
Well, I got to tell you, Lisa Ann, busy. It has been absolutely chaotic. And, you know, to just have breaking news, like wrapping up on the Fantasy Alarm show, like that got even crazier. Like I was like, you know, we're like in the middle of doing this segment. I got my editor from the New York Post, Drew Loftus, on the show. And like, boom, we're talking targets and wide receivers and tight ends. And Cam Akers got traded in the middle of it all. And I'm like, ooh.
And very interesting. We didn't expect Cam Akers to be a healthy scratch, but we knew there was some drama. There was some trouble in paradise. Remember last year, they almost broke up and then they kind of got back together. A lot of times when people break up and get back together, eventually the same thing's going to happen. And it looks like it happened again with the Los Angeles Rams and Mr. Cam Akers, a breakup.
There's definitely a breakup there with Sean McVay, but you know, listen, as somebody who is the exception to that rule, because Deborah and I dated for like 2 years, broke up, stayed friends for 5 years, and then got back together again. So apparently you can go back to your ex, Lisa Ann, and I'll tell you why, because Cam Akers is now reunited with Wes Phillips and Kevin O'Connell, who are both coaching the Rams at the time that Akers was there, and they were all like winning Super Bowls together. And all of a sudden now, so Cam Akers breaks up with Sean McVay to go back to, you know, his exes. I tell you, I might be in for that.
Well, it's interesting you say about the breakup and the getting back together. Fun fact, both of my parents married their high school sweethearts 50 plus years later.
Oh, 50 plus years later.
Oh, yes. They both got married and had their own families and then reconnected. I remember the incident when my mom saw my now stepdad. We were at Acme grocery store and she looked at him and she goes, "That's the man I should have married." But then she had to throw it in there. But then I wouldn't have you two lovely children. Okay, great. We get home. I'm like 8. We get home. I'm like, "Mom, you know his mom's phone number is going to be the same. Aren't we calling her? Let's call her. Let's see what his story is, you know?" Oh, he has 2 kids, same age as me and my brother. He's divorced. Then fast forward many years later, my dad runs into his high school sweetheart. He's like 75 and realizes he's been single since he was 35. He should probably get remarried. Marries her. This is why I didn't stay in the small town, because I knew eventually I'd end up with the same guy that was the first guy.
Right, but don't we kind of like fall into that? Like, you know, when like an ex hits you up on like Facebook or Twitter and you haven't spoken to them in forever, you're like, oh, let me go check somebody's marital status. Divorced. Okay. I understand now. Looking to reconnect that old magic. Sorry, I'm a lot heavier than I was back in high school. Sorry to disappoint.
Hairstyles different. A lot of things are different. I still have my teeth, but that's great. So we're going to sink our teeth into everything that's been taking place in the NFL. We know that the Jerome Ford name has been a name that no one can stop talking about, and we will get to that. Waiver wires have been incredibly intense. So tell me in a short version, like, how many hours right now are you spending on the wire?
Oh my God. I'm in like 40, 50 leagues right now. I don't even know exactly how many leagues I'm in because I'm too stupid to just count and cut them. It takes me hours. I was sitting there yesterday and I'm like, you know, I get off the Fantasy Alarm show and I'm like, all right, now I got to start doing waivers. And you know, Deb's like, are you cooking dinner? Oh, sorry. Let me don't hit me. Let me just, you know, let me figure this out. I said, let me just do some waivers first because I got all these leagues with Tuesday night waivers.
I should smack you in the mouth.
And like an hour and a half later, she comes out to the shed, attitude beyond belief. F this, F that, what time, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I'm still doing waivers, honey. So yeah, it's chaotic. I spend hours doing waiver wire stuff because I have to look in on every single one of these leagues. And I mean, Nick Chubb, I was heavily invested in that. So
I'm very sorry for your loss of Chubb. Sorry, I wanted to say that all day.
I need some, right? Howard Bender needs fantasy Viagra.
Yes. But you not only lost Chubb week 2, you also had the heartbreak of losing our mutual friend, because we have a parasocial relationship now with Aaron Rodgers. So you've had 2 major hits on your teams just in week 2, and you're not alone. Fantasy managers everywhere are feeling this same pain out.
I definitely feel like the universe is against me. 100%. I've got you've watched, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right?
Oh, love that.
So
show.
when Charlie Day, that gift that everybody shows of Charlie Day doing like the whole conspiracy thing and stuff like that, I actually have something very similar for that based off of a team that I own called the Fanboys, which are all my favorite players. I got them all on one team, and suddenly it's turned into this like universe hit list, and they're like Aaron Rodgers, Nick Chubb. Now I'm freaking out. I want to know who's next, and I'll tell you what, Brandon Ayuk is on that team, and he's already dealing with a shoulder issue. I don't even know if he's going to play this week. So it's like, oh, Brandon Ayuk. Oh, well, all right. Well, we'll cross off Brandon. We'll wait until he's, doesn't play on Thursday night for Ayuk.
I'm very sorry for all of this. I know this is what we deal with, but we don't expect to deal with it so quickly in the season. It does hit you harder when you're in multiple leagues. Let's face it, because you having one or two shares of these players, the teams you're managing, pretty obvious, right? Also, being a Jets fan really hurt. I will say, after I listened to everybody all summer talk about Nick Chubb, and I realized there was no Kareem Hunt, I do have quite a few shares of Jerome Ford. He's been sitting on my bench. I got 3 trade offers today. This was, of course, before Kareem Hunt was brought in. At the same time, I'm not worried about that. But I just had him as a flyer, kind of a handcuff, would you say, without having Nick Chubb, knowing that a Nick Chubb fantasy manager would need to come to me, which they all did.
So you're the one, right? I was like going through my leagues and I was like, there is a surprisingly, small amount of leagues where Jerome Ford is available even. And listen, me, I'm always a proponent for handcuffing, right? Everywhere I've got Bijan Robinson, I've got Tyler Algier.
Right.
I don't really know. I mean, maybe I look at Nick Chubb, like an 8-year-old looks up at like one of his idols and just says, "Oh, he's the best," and we don't need the handcuff. I didn't have any Jerome Ford backing him up, so really bad form on my part. You for you look at you. You're like, yeah.
So here's what I'm going to do. In the leagues where I have Ford, I also have Alvin Kamara. So I told each team manager, hey, let's circle back on this trade offer next week. Because if I'm going to be putting Alvin Kamara back in my lineup, there's no reason for me to hold on to Ford if somebody else really needs them.
What kind of deals are you getting offered? Because here's the thing. You look at Jerome Ford right now, and listen, I'm all in on him. I grabbed him in leagues that I could, and I'm going to put some waivers in after this show and grab him again. But next week he plays this week. They play Tennessee.
Good run defense. Tennessee is really surprising with their run defense. No joke up there.
Shut down Joshua Kelly last week. Shut down Jamal Williams the week before that. And so now it's Jerome Ford. The next 2 weeks after that, the Baltimore Ravens and then the San Francisco 49ers. So this next 3 week schedule for Jerome Ford, you're going to have so many frustrated people Like I genuinely believe somebody who blew their entire fab budget on Jerome Ford could end up just dropping him out of frustration
Agreed.
inside 2 weeks because he's not putting up the stats that you thought. Maybe they try to spice it up with a little bit of Kareem Hunt in the passing game, and then all of a sudden people start freaking out. So you might want to, see about if these deals are good. You might want to see about the possibility of like selling high before the dude even plays a game.
Yeah, I may throw that out there. That is a possibility. I'm not opposed, right? But it just feels good. Look, I played Kyron Williams last weekend up
Mm.
against the San Francisco 49ers defense. So I'm not as afraid of Jerome Ford facing that defense as I thought I would be because I was insecure about playing Williams. But if the one team that I'm the most affected right now, I only have Chubb on 2 teams. And the team where I have him, I also have Saquon Barkley. Okay, I have just this ongoing. But let me just welcome everybody in here, and we're going to answer your questions. We love you here in the chat. We thank you so much for being here. Better Boss, Scott, Kevin. We got a question. Alexander Madison or Cam Akers going forward?
So, all right, see, that's the thing. I don't really know what's going on with Alexander Matt. Like I mean, I know what's going on with him, but after Thursday night's game against Minnesota, he got death threats,
Yeah.
racial slurs, all like showing up on him in social media.
The internet is a horrible place filled with horrible people.
But I don't know what his mental state is on that because, I mean, something like that. I mean, listen, somebody gets a death threat, that shakes them. That
I've been there.
definitely shakes them. And okay, so
Oh, it's on the regular. I still get them quite frequently. But my biggest run with it was a 3 to 6 month run where it was constant. It was every day. It was phone calls to my house, phone calls to my neighbors, phone calls to everyone in my sphere. And it was really traumatic. So it would be hard for him to go out there and be in the perfect headspace. We also need to know how long it's going to take Cam Akers to get into his new home and adjust. There's a lot of adjustment going both ways. Like maybe moving forward, Cam Akers is obviously the better option, but as of right now, not so much. But before we get to any of that, can I tell you, remember how traumatized I was? I didn't get to be home watching week 1 on Sunday.
Yes. Oh,
This
well,
Sunday,
I mean, that airport story was the worst.
The worst. This Sunday, I was up at 5:30, went out, got a city bike. I got a crappy bike, and as I was pulling away with it, a nice man was coming back with a better bike. He's like, "Do you want this one?" "Yes, I do." Went for a 2-hour bike ride, came back, worked on my lineups, went up to the rooftop pool because it's still open on weekends and it was like a summer day, got 90 minutes of sun, came downstairs, retinkered with my lineups, did not move from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. It was bliss. Absolute. I didn't even tweet. Sometimes I don't want to touch my phone during the games. You're paying attention to so many things. I definitely don't check my lineups because what's the point, right? I don't want to check my matchups all day. That's just petty. And I like to just be in it and be really looking at what I'm seeing. And I feel like with Red Zone on one TV and my other TV where I'm flicking back and forth between 2 games, there's a lot of focus I'm doing to make sure that I'm absorbing the games. So I really did notice a lot. But for you, I just tweeted a story about our friend Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a hyperbaric chamber delivered to his place. Now, I don't know if you know this, but 2 months ago, I started doing regular visits to the hyperbaric chamber. I am hooked. I absolutely love it. And what I've learned in a situation like his, to go in multiple times a day for 30, 45, an hour, okay? You're getting 100% pure oxygen, which is going to feed your blood cells at such a rapid level. And it's for increased healing. It's something that someone would do after a surgery. It's something that somebody does for better circulation, for inflammation, for mental health. It's great for anxiety. But the fact that Rodgers, and he got the one delivered that I've already looked up that I'm always like, hey, when I make it big, I'm buying this thing for my house because I want it so bad, right? To be Aaron Rodgers and to have that. So what he's doing is going to be very unique. And I don't know if you saw, but last week on McAfee, and by the way, he's still going to do Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays.
Oh, he's gonna still do it.
He's
Well,
doing
that's
every
good.
Tuesday again. Yes, it's so exciting. He announced it on Friday. And I was walking down the street celebrating, and strangers were looking at me like, what is wrong with this person? And Greeny was so excited that he actually swore on ESPN on McAfee's show. He said the F word. It was amazing. McAfee was like, Mr. Rodgers just swore. But Rodgers talked about the fact, do not write him off to come back before this season is over. Now, I know that sounds
Come
absurd.
on. I just texted you. See if you could if you got the picture that I just texted you.
It's not crystals and lavender.
I said it to Brian Burns also. Let's see if he can pull that up on the show at some point.
It's hyperbaric chamber. So I go once a week. So you want to know why I started it? My doctor and I had been this nagging like Charlie horse. Okay. So I went to my doctor. We did like a sonogram thing and some, they rubbed the thing on. Look at it. I felt like I'm self-diagnosing, but I think I have a blood clot. And he's like, you do. You have a small blood clot. I said, well, what are my options? He's like, well, I can give you medication. I'm like, I don't take medication. And I said, how about I go to the hyperbaric chamber? And he's like, if you can do 5 days in a row, 5 treatments and come back, we'll measure it again. 5 days in a row, 5 treatments. It was down to like a 1/10 of the size of it was. Now it's completely gone because I'm going once a week for a full hour.
Like maintenance,
I bookend it with cryo. I freeze for 3 minutes. Then I go in the chamber for an hour. Then I come back out and freeze again for 3 minutes. Man, inflammation be gone.
When I come back to New York, you're going to have to take me out on a spa day because I want to try this stuff out. Like I don't have the opportunity to do it out here. I'm not going to like look into it or whatever.
No, it's too far for you.
You know where to go. You know who's trustworthy and everything like that. You're going to have to take me to a spa day.
I will. And it's everything is so close, right? But it's amazing what it all does. So forward thinking, I posted the story because the brand is the one that I looked at and already put it like on my wish list of like, if ever. But back to everybody in the room. Aaron Rodgers, you're still upset over it. I get that. My Sunday fun day was absolutely fantastic. I love the games. And I got to say, players that are surprising me, I drafted a bunch of Jared Goff as like a backup quarterback. Man, it is so great to see Jared Goff playing the way that he is after doing so well in LA and then just falling off a cliff. You don't feel it? You're not a fan?
I guess I'm not really that much of a fan.
But he's getting it done. You know what I mean? He's getting it. It might not look pretty. It might not be a team that you're loving, but he's getting it done. You can't not. It's the underdog story in me. I'm sorry. I love the fact that he has had this resurgence in his career, and I think it's very exciting.
I mean, okay. I mean, like, if you're talking about it as like a comeback kind of a thing, okay. I mean, I get that. The resurgence. I don't know. Do you have a lot of shares in fantasy?
I sure do. And I have, because I'm a 2 quarterback drafter, Howard, even in 1 quarterback leagues. And it really bit me this week because I've got Joe Burrow and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson being my backup, Joe Burrow being my starter.
Okay. And so who are you going to start then?
Neither, because I'm not going to be worried about Joe Burrow and the cap. Unless we get news that he's 100, he's coming in. Great. Okay, fine. But I ended up dropping Zeke, which was really hard and emotional because I was just keeping, Zeke on my teams just because I felt bad. He looked like his stepchild.
Play with your heart. Play with your heart. Not play with your head.
I talked to him about it happening. And I was like, I'm going to pick up Matthew Stafford. There was only 2 quarterbacks available. It was like Jimmy G and Matthew Stafford in this league. So I'm like, I am now going to have 3 quarterbacks. And that's only because next week's going to be a big trade week for me. And I think if I can get back past like week 5, first round of bye weeks, I think Richardson's going to have great trade value. It was a bummer to see him go out of the game on Sunday with a concussion, but it was great that he knew to have himself put in the protocol without waiting till he got hit again.
Ooh, Richardson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the report from Jim Bob Cooter today who said he was like, we're not going to limit him. We're not going to do it. We're not going to change anything. I'm like, yeah, all right. You just keep running out there. And, until you get concussed again, I'm like, I mean, listen, if you got to teach this kid how to slide, There's a time to
Yes.
fight for a yard and there's a time that you don't fight for a yard. And that to me is like, that's one of the more unnerving things about it. I think I was talking to Dan Servadidio on the betting show, and we were talking about like what, futures look like right now, offensive rookie of the year, stuff like that. And he was like, well, what do you think about Anthony Richardson? I was like, I'm not going to put anything on Anthony Richardson. The dude got his bell rung in week 1, concussed in week 2. And Jim Bob Cooter's like, just go out there, kid. We'll take care of it. Don't worry about that. Like, that makes me a little nervous.
I get it for sure. Like, when you talk about sliding, I'm always amazed to watch a player like Mahomes slide. Man, he knows when to slide and pops right back up and it's over. He's walking away. He's not even laid out. You know what I mean? And because of the angle he slides, players know they can't get him on a hit either. So what a player is doing by doing that is stopping the play of the game, letting defenders know this is not the time to rush and tackle me, getting it done and over with. You might not get that extra yard, but you're not being taken out of the game.
You know what I love what Mahomes does? When he's at the sidelines and you think he's going to the sidelines, right? And then the defender kind of lets up because he doesn't want to get the penalty for like the late hit. And then Mahomes like cuts back and he steals like another like 2 yards.
Yeah,
like he's the master of doing that. I love that.
And those 1 or 2 yards really add up. I mean, that is a big part
Always.
of it all. So let's talk a couple injuries before we lose these questions. I think we should hit on them.
Oh, let's hit the questions.
Since
Let's
we've
do it.
got
Let's
a couple. So someone else is going to invite you into another league. I'm just reminding you about that. Our friend Byron said Leonard Fournette is available. Do you think Leonard Fournette is going to get picked up sometime this season by a team?
I don't. We haven't heard anything about Fournette throughout the offseason, right? Like we saw, Kareem Hunt had like gone through a couple of camps and, and they were just kind of kicking the tires on him. I don't think that, I haven't heard anything about Leonard Fournette going in for any kind of a visit. So no, I would pass on him.
We've got this one: Lockett, Breece Hall, and Christian Kirk for Kyron, Flowers, and Mike Williams and McLaurin. Let me give that to you again. The trade is Lockett, Breece Hall, and Christian Kirk for Kyron Williams. I'm assuming this is Zay Flowers and not Ray Flowers. Ray's not in the league anymore, right?
What kind of trade value does Ray Flowers have anymore? Come on.
Zay Flowers, Mike Williams, and Terry McLaurin. So it seems a little heavy. So I don't know what side our listener is on, but Lockett, Breece Hall, and Christian Kirk for Kyron Williams, Zay Flowers, Mike Williams, and Terry McLaurin. Is that good?
I mean, it's good if you're getting Kyron Williams, Zay Flowers, Mike Williams, and Terry McLaurin. Listen, I love Breece Hall. I'm a diehard Jets fan, but let's face it, unless the Jets miraculously develop a passing game with Zach Wilson, or I did hear a rumor saying that, somebody was like that they were looking to bring in trade for a veteran or bring in a veteran. I don't know what it is because it's Nathaniel Hackett's the problem. That's what's wrong with it. He just, Aaron Rodgers is the offensive coordinator. If you want the Jets to fix what they've got, you need Rodgers in Zach Wilson's helmet, in his ear, not in Hackett. Let Hackett give Rodgers the play, or let Rodgers be able to hear what the play call is, and have Rodgers be the voice, from above, and just be like, all right, well, that play is stupid. What we're going to do is we're going to do this because this is what you're seeing on the right. This is what you're seeing on the left. And this is where, the softness of the defense is, it's where their underbellies. If you've got Rodgers teaching that to Zach Wilson, then I'm totally cool with it. But until that happens, and until I see that happens, why would defenses not just stack the box against Breece Hall the entire time? Lockett, he's one of 3 wide receivers over there in Seattle. I'd like him a lot. Sure. Christian Kirk. Okay, great. But Kyron Williams is the guy in Los Angeles right now. He is the guy. There's nobody that's worried about sharing time. Mike Williams in a Kellen Moore offense. I mean, we're just going to see, watch this weekend. There's going to be fireworks in that Chargers Vikings game.
Look what Keenan Allen was able to put together last weekend. Woo.
Right. Absolutely. And it's going to change. I think it flips over to Williams this week.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Well, he's healthy.
Just based on the cover corners and stuff like that. So, and then Zay Flowers is absolutely beautiful emerging there in Baltimore. He and Lamar Jackson have something. They definitely have something. Odell Beckham, ankle issue again, Kardashian issue, perhaps. So Odell's sitting there. So I love Zay Flowers. And then who is the other? I can't remember how tasty.
Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
Oh, yeah. Scary Terry. F-150, whatever you want to nickname this dude. He's still a baller. And Sam Howell looks like he can quarterback in the NFL. So if that's the side that if you're getting that back, I would make that deal.
Agreed. And you are right about Sam Howell. And when we were at the Fantasy Football Expo, a couple people were talking to me about how they thought Sam Howell was going to be the breakout rookie quarterback, young quarterback out of all these quarterbacks in the mix right now. He's getting into Terry McLaurin, and McLaurin jumping up for that catch last week was like, because he's not the biggest receiver. We're used to a little bit longer receiver being able to get that separation and jump up like that. But he is a playmaker, and that's what a young quarterback needs, is somebody that's willing to I'll throw my body on the line because I want to bring in this target and I want to run and I want to do these things. And so if that's your side of the deal, we like it. We have this one. Should I start, Buffalo Boy says, should I start Kyren Williams or Kenneth Walker?
Why? All right. It's one of these moments where I say, why can't we have both?
Yes, let us know who your other running backs are, who you're putting in your flex. Yep, that's
because 100%. All right, because first of all, Kyren Williams, we just said he's a bell cow. He's going up against Cincinnati with probably no Joe Burrow. Sorry, Lisa, and I'm gonna break this to you now.
I've accepted it.
I don't think he plays on Monday.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think it's smart for him to play on Monday. If they think they're going to go long into the season, why would you even consider him? But do we know anything about this man called Jake Browning?
Not enough to be like,
Jamar Chase, I'm playing him, Yeah.
Play all you guys. Like that, I can't get into that. But the Bengals run defense, they've given up the second most rushing yards per game, right? Almost 200 rushing yards per game already. And 2 rushing touchdowns. So Kyren Williams is in a great spot, but so is Kenneth Walker. Carolina Panthers have given up 134 rushing yards per game. They've given up 4 rushing touchdowns already. Like, they've got a good solid defense. They've got a good solid, secondary. Yes, they lost J.C. Horn, but they've still been locking it down through the air. So that kind of, why wouldn't it be Kenneth Walker season? So if I had to choose one over the other.
Okay, but wait, you don't now, because I have the rest of the data for you. I have collected the rest of the data for you, my friend Howard Bender. Here's what we got. Our friend who is wondering if he should start Kyren Williams or Kenneth Walker has Derrick Henry as his RB1 and Michael Pittman in the flex.
Oh, I'm sitting Pittman then. Pittman. Yeah, I mean, listen, Anthony Richardson might not play.
Yep.
All right, I don't love Gardner Minshew, and this matchup also for the Colts going up against the Ravens. Ravens have a strong secondary. I would sit Pittman, and I would make sure that you start both Kenneth Walker and Kyren Williams.
So there is your answer. You are going to get to play them both, and you're going to put one in your flex, and you're going to sit Michael Pittman. We got another one here. Would you trade Javonte Williams for Mike Williams? This is from our friend Jamie in the chat. Would you trade Javonte Williams for Mike Williams? I have Harris, Mixon, Warren, Dillon, and for wide receiver, Chase, Ayuk, Amari Cooper, Mims, Tank, Fell, and Tooney. I'm leaning I keep him.
I would probably lean towards keeping him also. We don't know what's going on with Najee Harris right now. Jaylen Warren is definitely...
Can I tell you what's going on with Najee Harris? Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Let me tell you?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Not much. Okay? And I keep saying this is the week. Yeah, Hook, I got you. I got you.
Totally fish
Not much.
me.
You know what's going on? Not much. There's no terrible towel that can fix this problem. What is up? This was going to be Najee season.
I know. And he had these back-to-back really strong runs to start the fourth quarter of the game. And then all of a sudden he went back in the tank. I don't know. So he
pump fakes us. Like, he gets us hyped. Like, okay, we're going. And then it's like, oh no, we're not going. We're not. We're not
Well,
getting in the end
so
zone.
here we go. So you got Pittsburgh's backs here. You got Mixon. I don't love AJ Dillon. And you know what? I mean, when Ayuk is healthy, I mean, Chase Ayuk, Amari Cooper, and then you've got, a couple of guys there, Tank Dell, Kadarius Toney, Marvin Mims. All you need is for like one of them to have like a little bit of, a pop. And we've seen that now. We just saw that from Mims this past week. Cooper had, some serious targets there too. So yeah, I would skip that trade. Because what I also think that we're going to see against Miami is I think that Miami will probably jump out to a lead, on Denver, and then you're going to have Denver playing in catch up mode, and you're going to, it's those targets to Javonte Williams. He didn't see a ton of them this past week because Denver had that game well in hand until the second half happened. So now I think they kind of play on their heels a little bit more, and we see more targets to Javonte. So. As much as I love Mike Williams, I think your need is much more on the running back side.
I would agree with that. And touching on a couple of these news and notes, just so everyone knows, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports that Joe Burrow with the calf won't be fully healthy, probably for some time. And if you remember before the season started, Jamar Chase was like, if we don't have him for 5 weeks, it's okay, as long as we have him later. Okay, whatever. This is a calf. We know how this can linger. So this is a big question mark. And this is going to be a question mark for some of the most sought after receivers, i.e. Jamar Chase going in the first to third pick in drafts.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I will say is that I don't know a lot about Jake Browning, and I don't know how he's going to fare on Monday Night Football. But we also didn't know how Zach Wilson was going to fare in his, in the game against the Dallas Cowboys. And that bullet that he threw to Garrett Wilson that he took in for a touchdown. I mean, you definitely, when you've got a playmaker of Jamar Chase's caliber, if Jake Browning can just get the ball to him, I mean, all you really need for fantasy is for it to pop once during the game.
And look, that ball you mentioned that Zach Wilson threw looked good. And I still don't think we can judge Zach Wilson facing 2 games we've seen so far this season. One, he's thrown in last minute in a total panic of like, oh my gosh, my guy is down. I wasn't expecting to play. And then facing the Dallas Cowboys defense, game 2. That's a lot of pressure for the kid. I still think they're going to rally behind him, but the rumblings of talking and should we be bringing someone in? Saleh says he believes in him. Saleh says they're not looking to bring anybody in, but the networks, the news, the media has all talked about, oh, Kirk Cousins would be a perfect fit. Grab Andy Dalton from Carolina. Well, guess what? Andy Dalton might show his face because little talk about Bryce Young not practicing. And ESPN reports the Panthers can't use Young for quarterback sneaks because he's too small. Is that a report? Did anybody need to publish that? Did we need to say that out loud?
Somebody did report that. It was on ESPN. I've been cracking up the entire time about it because I'm like, really? Because he's too small. Like, you don't want to put him at risk. Like, go into that formation. It's like the human bubble wrap formation that the Eagles do.
Yes.
And then, if he is that small, well, then while that like scrum is taking place, he could probably just kind of like scurry under and like go between everybody's legs and end up in the end zone.
Obviously, but it's just a funny headline for ESPN to put out there. It's like, it's like a content machine. I get it. It was a slow news day and you had to tell us the obvious that he's a small kid, but he still looks pretty good. We're going to look good when we get back to all of your questions. I love that you're bringing them into us. We appreciate you. Lots of talk in the chat about the Steelers' problem being Matt Canada. We'll talk about that after the break, Howard, because I really want to hear your thoughts on this as well. Everybody, please keep throwing your questions in here because we're going to get to them. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network and Fantasy Alarm.
Oh boy, we got a big one. We got a big card here. We got
let's go.
We got a super rookie.
Ooh.
Do you guys want to guess who the big card super rookie is? Because
I'm going to guess somebody from the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't recall who were rookies in those particular years. So I'm going to guess Michael Irvin.
Adam?
Jared kind of convinced me to go Troy Aikman there.
I'm going to read the description. In this player's NFL debut, September 10th, 1989, he produced an electrifying 68-yard punt return for a touchdown.
Sanders.
He became the first athlete in the 20th century to hit a home run, September 5th, 1989, for the Yankees at Seattle, and score a touchdown in the same week.
That needs a sleeve. That one needs a sleeve.
Top
100%.
super rookie, neon, prime time, Deion Sanders.
I wasn't that far off. He played for the Cowboys.
I was going to say Deion, and then when you said the early 90s Cowboys, I'm like, oh, Aikman would be a good guess. So I go with your gut is the lesson there.
And there it is, the white and red Falcon jerseys that you said Deion came in with before they changed to black.
That was because the starting lineup for Deion his rookie year has got the red helmet with the white jersey.
Now look at that do. I mean, are you kidding me with that hair?
I mean, you got to have a headband with those curls. You got to.
That is sick. And this is a favorite card. Do we have any value on this card? We have to, right?
Let me see.
Give me a value here.
Let's see here on eBay. PSA 10 gem mint Deion Sanders, $149.99. And then a 9.5 is $6. So that guy might be a little bit then there's a much more reasonably listed one at $31 for a PSA 10. So it's got some value to it. Yeah, you might want to protect that one.
It's in excellent condition. I guess we have to worry about, is it centered?
Yes, that would be the next thing.
All right, well, we'll go through the process there. Maybe I'll just frame that one as a great moment in this show's history.
We are back right here, Lisa Ann and Howard Bender. Howard at RotoBuzz Guy, me at The Real Lisa Ann. And Brian Burns has a photo that he'd like to share with us. It's the photo that you shared with me via text during the show. It's okay,
Jets medical staff.
medical team. We've got this. Those are lavender crystals. And what is that? How do you call it? Is it amethyst?
Amethyst, yeah.
One is amethyst, and then the other one is not amethyst. It's something else, almost like my salt lamp, you know?
I think the pink, I think that's pink quartz in the middle, and
you are correct.
Pink quartz has both love and healing powers.
Well, you are my pink quartz. So love and healing. How can you send? Do you think you could send that medical kit over to the Giants, who have ruled out Saquon Barkley Thursday night? Do you think Saquon would benefit from those treats as well?
I do. I didn't believe it at all when Brian Daboll said that, he wasn't going to rule out Saquon Barkley yesterday. So when he came out today and they officially ruled him out, I was like, yeah, that a boy. But I will say this. It was just an ankle sprain. It's not a high ankle sprain.
Yep.
If Saquon Barkley is feeling a little better, I mean, if he misses this game, okay, fine.
That's smart. I mean, it's too short of a rest. It's a Thursday night game.
No reason to do it. I mean, yes, you always want to put your best foot forward and you want to win, but I mean, the San Francisco defense is no joke. And then coming up right after that game against San Francisco, you got Seattle, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Commanders, the Jets. You've got very winnable games right there, and you want to have Barkley ready for those. So, concede a game like this, sort of, and just, hope that the Matt Breida revenge game narrative really comes into play here. I love me a good revenge game narrative, Lisa Ann.
I sure do. I sure do.
But so, yeah, I mean, I think that, listen, I think that it's smart to hold Barkley out. But I am encouraged by the fact that maybe he comes back at, week 4.
And remember, we've been told he's a fast healer.
You see that dude who typed that though? He typed it HEELER. I'm like, he's a fast Australian cattle dog. What's going on here?
Typos bother me as well. Well, the Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski reiterated Wednesday that Jerome Ford is still the lead back. That comes after the news that Kareem Hunt and the Browns have agreed to a 1-year contract. Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer reports. So Hunt's back like a $4 million 1-year deal. This is a smart and necessary move, but I think this is Jerome Ford's chance to really be the Kyron Williams of the moment, right? This is the great thing about being a true fan of the NFL. I've seen these players that you knew very little about You got some rumblings, and then they go out there and they really shine. We're seeing that again with Puka. Like, these players are exciting. They're going to be in the NFL for quite some time. They're young, and we get to be a part of watching their growth and development in the league.
Oh, I love seeing that. I absolutely love seeing that. And, you know, and to bring it back, you know, when you're talking about, you know, Jerome Ford, you have to give him that opportunity, right? I mean, listen,
Agreed.
I don't want to be like Mr. Doom and Gloom, but I saw Chubb's injury. I know what happened to him in Georgia, you know, several years ago. It's potentially an injury that you don't come back from. You don't. And so to hear you know, for Stefanski to be like, listen, Jerome Ford is our guy. You have to see what you've got in him.
Yeah.
You know that Kareem Hunt didn't work with you guys before. So you bring him in here right now, and maybe, you know, you're adding depth to it. But I love the fact that Stefanski is so adamant about the fact that Jerome Ford is our guy, and that's not gamesmanship either.
You know what? Stefanski likes fantasy football, and he wants us to have comfort in who we're starting. And we've got questions here. So we've got It's King says, I don't know if you guys doing trades in fantasy. Yes, we do. But should I trade Ramondre and Chase for Bijan and Olave?
Oh, I think I would do that in a heartbeat.
I mean, if somebody's willing to give you Bijan and Olave for Ramondre and Chase, you have to do it. But it's a matter of, is someone in your league willing to give up Olave, especially after what he's showing us right now? Really?
This is, you know, I think the big problem right now that we're worried about with New Orleans is Derek Carr. You know, were the Raiders right? Does Derek Carr really stink at football? Because he did look like he had some struggles. He was peppering Michael Thomas early with targets, which was great to see. You know, and then Olave started to get his work in, but there are a lot of miscues, a lot of misfires there. But Olave he's fantastic. I would rather just put Olave into my lineup every single week, and just because he will produce. He will. I don't necessarily know if that's the case about Ramondre Stevenson, only because Bill Belichick always kind of mixes it up a little bit. You never know what he's going to do. Is he going to be throwing heavy? You know, and so I'm not going to be all doom and gloom on Ramondre, because I do think that he's great and he's talented, but I'll take Bijan way, way, way over Ramondre Stevenson. And then the
just because of the system, and you're explaining that it is purely because of the system. Yes, Bijan's a bit better than Ramondre as well, but he's in a system where he is going to be the back week after week after week. Even though he's sharing a bit with Tyler Algier, he's going to be the back. Whereas, like you said, in New England, it could be like 1 week is huge and the next week is absolutely nothing. You might not even suit up. We just don't know.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's a troubling thing. And now you add in the fact that we don't know how long Joe Burrow is going to be out. And so, you know, I mean, listen, at least you're trading your first round pick for somebody else's first round pick in the Bijan for Chase. And then Olave and Stevenson probably had very similar ADP as well. So I think it's a fair deal. And if I'm getting Bijan I want to be getting Bijan Robinson 100%.
We have a lot of talks about Justin Fields being a different disappointment. Byron says Justin Fields has been a disappointment so far, but you know what? Better Boss does not really agree. He says, don't give up on Fields. Bears have issues off the field. The issues off the field, I think, are what are making me the most concerned for all of my shares of Justin Fields. I mean, you did see his presser where he had to come back and say, oh, no, I didn't say it was the coaching.
Yeah. I was like, no, we heard you. We heard you.
Did.
Got on tape.
You'll have to remember, we're not using a cup and string. Like, we record this stuff and then we put it out there on the internet. Okay. It's actually documented. It's so Dennis the Menace style. Can you hear me? Okay. I said that. No, I didn't say that. It's not a game of telephone. You put it out there. A lot of stuff going on there, but trade question. Saquon, Kyron Williams, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans. That's the first half. For Bijan, Calvin Ridley. Half PPR. I have Stephon Diggs, ETN, Brian Robinson, who is having a monster season so far, and Rashid White.
Oh, man. I mean, that's a Saquon, Kyron Williams, Debo, and Mike Evans. That's a lot. I mean, I love Bijan and I love Calvin Ridley, but man, I think you're giving up too many assets here.
I agree.
In order to acquire big name guys who, listen, Calvin Ridley was terrible last week because Trevor Lawrence was terrible last week. I mean, I love. Oh, does that hit
I'm
a
not
sense?
over it.
Like I feel like I triggered you. You're like twitching here. What's up?
I'm twitching. Okay. I just want all my Calvin Ridley to do so well all the time. We're talking about him all off season.
Shh, it's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the hug.
You're
I appreciate it. We can
okay.
fist bump here too, make me feel better. A little fist bump.
There
Okay.
you go.
I agree with you. Also, packaging up this many players, okay, week 2, we're walking into week 3 right now in the NFL. You are not thinking at all about your bye weeks, and you're not thinking about real situations. Mike Evans right now is playing for more money. He didn't get the deal he wanted before the season started, which makes us know he's going to either be marketing himself to stay in Tampa Bay for another year for more money, or he's going to go elsewhere. So that performance last week was like, wow. And I got to say, I'm incredibly impressed with Baker.
You love Baker Mayfield now, don't you? Look,
I have no shares. I mean, I was impressed with Minshew. He came out and got it done. These are 2 names that.
Well, you've been hanging out with the better boss too much. You're scraping bottom of the barrel players right now. Why don't you tell me that you want to buy low on Richie James in Kansas City?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But at the same time, do not get over your head in getting rid of too many players in order. Okay, we've got one here. Okay, Byron has a trade offer. Puka for DK Metcalf.
Oh, if I'm getting DK Metcalf, listen, I love Puka Nacua. I love what's happening right now. I do. I don't know what's going to happen when Cooper Kupp comes out. I mean,
bing, exactly.
We are seeing, listen, Tutu Atwell's had a great target share also. But the question is does Puka get demoted down to Tutu Atwell level and Cooper Kupp comes back in as the darling? Or does Cooper Kupp take on that secondary role because Stafford and Puka are vibing right now? Either way, I love DK Metcalf. Physically, he is just an absolute dominant beast on the field. I'd rather have DK Metcalf. I think it's a good sell high on Puka Nacua.
Look at the body.
Look at the body. Pick 2 people to start right here. Kenneth Walker, Kyron Williams, Raheed Shaheed. Pick 2.
Well, that's easy. I mean, that's Walker and Kyron Williams. I mean, come on, that's a no-brainer. Is that legit? Are you sure? Are you sure you're asking that question, or are you just testing us? I feel
Someone's asking that question. Not you guys telling me to trade Puka for Godwin as being a Cup owner. Oh, interesting. You're worried about when Cup comes back. Cup being that's a tough one. I'm not making that move right now for Godwin. Are you?
No, not for Godwin.
No, but if it was for Evans, you would. All right, catching you back up. The Bucks placed running back Chase Edmonds on injured reserve, and ESPN's Adam Schefter reports that running back Jamal Williams will be out for the immediate future.
That's a tough one. And
why did I say Jamal? I know it's Jamawful. I listen to your show. That's why this person didn't even register with me like a human being I've never even heard of before, because his name is Jamawful.
Yeah, listen, it's a huge bummer because to me, all of this does. I mean, listen, if you're hard up on waivers and you need somebody, I mean, Kendry Miller is expected to play. You still got Tony Jones there, so they're going to share it for a week. But this right now, what this does for me is like it ups Alvin Kamara that much more, because when Kamara comes back in week 4, and he will be back in week 4, you're not worried about Jamal Williams poaching touchdowns at the goal line. It to me, it solidifies Alvin Kamara a little bit more. So bummer for Jamal Williams and for his owners, but happy accident, I say, for Alvin Kamara.
If those are 2 things that go together, happy and accident, yes, it is. A little wide receiver news here. Jalen Waddle, concussion, did not practice Wednesday. When you're looking at these concussions, how ready are you to make a switch in your lineup? Because it's not something that can be rushed back, right? Going through protocols can take however long. Some people take longer. How do you manage that?
I mean,
do you think he plays this week?
So concussions to me are, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, I like the fact that we're bringing it to light more, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, there are certain players, like I saw the hit that Jacoby Myers took. I'm not going to put him into my lineup this week. I'm not going to use Anthony Richardson, who's dealing
Me
with,
neither.
concussion protocol as well. And so, I look at these players. And I always, I mean, if it's a fresh concussion, if I've seen the hit and everything, I will make sure that I sit them, even if they get, like cleared, at like the last minute, all of a sudden you get that Saturday news being like, oh, so-and-so just, got through concussion protocol and will start tomorrow. Really? All right. I mean, because he followed your finger finally this last time. He didn't throw up when you smacked him in the back of the head, something like that. I worry about the concussions. I think it's a big deal.
And I definitely think we are thinking we don't know what was going on 5-10 years ago. We don't know what the protocols were even like, how much more advanced the whole thing has gotten, how much more aware players are, how much more concerned coaches are, especially when you're talking about Miami. This is a very sensitive subject there. Are you seeing this AS person? Because I do not remember telling anybody to trade Puka for Godwin. Did we have that question tonight?
You already told me to trade Puka for Godwin.
I don't know who he's talking to, who this person is talking to. We didn't get that in the earlier chat. Brian Burns, verify. We did not. I scrolled back through to even see if there was a message from this person, and there wasn't. So, because you could tell by the Abbeys and the names. So this is the first message we got. Hey, you guys, not you guys for telling me to trade Puka for Godwin, being a Cup owner. We don't know when this came in, what show, but if you could tell us what show and when this came in, and also if you could just breathe.
I mean, after week 1 and we were like skeptical about Puka Nakua's targets and how crazy that was, that he saw 15 targets there in week 1, and you were like, should I trade him for Chris Godwin? I mean, probably after week 1, I probably would have been like, yeah, you know what? If you can get that, you can get that, because Godwin is a veteran receiver who we expect Baker Mayfield to kind of lay on. After the second week of seeing that with Puka Nacua, I'm not really that into trading him for Chris Godwin. I'll do it for DK Metcalf in a heartbeat, but that's about it. I never once said tonight.
If you
last
see it
week,
all in all
last
caps,
week. Then there you go. All right,
he said it was last week, but I do not remember this person in the chat, and I'm really good with these people in chat. But regardless, we're very sorry. And just so you know, here's the great thing about people who give out fantasy football, sports betting, any sort of advice, even you're a medical professional. It is up to you to change your lineup. It is up to you to make that trade. So if you didn't feel it and you didn't have the hunch and you got a second opinion, went to a different doctor, these things happen. But it's like when people ask me a lineup thing and I give it to them, then later they come to me, I'm like, well, it was actually you that hit submit. So
you ruined my fantasy season. I actually had that conversation with somebody in the Fantasy Alarm Discord. He was like, private messaging me. And he was like, I started so-and-so over Nacua because one of your experts told me to. And I was like, no, dude, that's not the case. Like, it happened because you left him in your lineup. You asked, we gave an answer. If you didn't like the answer, well, then you can, obviously make that choice for yourself. If you had no idea whatsoever and you came to us and that's what was said to you, again, take the advice, don't take the advice. We try to do the best that we can, and we're not going to get everything right. If we got everything right,
we wouldn't even be sitting here doing this show. We'd be making so much money betting and sports things. We wouldn't even be showering. We wouldn't even be changing our clothes during the day. We'd just be rolling around in money. Okay?
Oh my Lord. Unbelievable. Yeah. That's like people blaming athletes for their fantasy team losing.
Well, listen, we're very sorry. We hope this didn't cause you any real emotional turmoil. And hopefully you understand that this is all fun and that nobody is exactly accurate and that we We are not Nostradamus. We cannot predict the future. Even though we both have magic 8 balls, we don't have crystal balls. Another person that might want a crystal ball is Odell Beckham. This ankle injury was not at practice. We've got quite a few of these. Let's go to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who COVID toe, turf toe.
Well,
COVID toe, turf toe. He has turf toe. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but every time I hear turf toe right now, I always go back to everybody blaming Aaron Rodgers for being the only human on the globe that had actual COVID toe.
So nobody from the team has come out and said turf toe. What happened was I think somebody was talking about the cleats that Amon-Ra was using, and he's got like a metal plate in one of them that is commonly used by athletes who do have turf toe. But the whole, the fact that and all of a sudden when we heard about this cleat, all the fantasy Twitter doctors that were out there, they all jumped on. They were like, "It's turf toe. That's what it is.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV."
And it's from a soap opera, by the way. I remember.
So I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would hope that it's not turf toe. I'm waiting for the team to diagnose it, and then we'll just kind of see what happens from there.
Packers wide receiver Christian Watson went through individual drills on Wednesday. We know that he's been dealing with the hamstring, and we know that Jordan Love would really like to have him back out there.
Yeah, I know that Jordan Love would very much love to have him out there. Absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know if he's ready. It should be interesting if he does, if he does play. I do believe it is a nice matchup for the Green Bay Packers. Who are they playing again? Oh, it's New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans, just their safety just got suspended. So, listen, Watson, he's a great talent. Hamstrings,
and he was highly sought after this season after the end of last season.
Right, but what happened to the beginning of last season? The beginning of last season was all hamstring injury.
Yeah.
So,
Brandon Ayuk, we mentioned earlier, shoulder will be limited at practice.
Yeah, that kind of upsets me. I mean, again, it's another just cross the name off of the hit list here. Listen, I think that he's incredibly talented. If he plays, I'd be okay using Ayuk. I mean, I don't think the Giants' pass defense is really, that kind of crazy or whatever. So yeah, I would probably just, I would, I think he's questionable. Maybe if they hold him out, it's a bummer for fantasy. But again, like Lisa and I have said, better to hold him out than for him to get injured further or making it worse. So I'm okay there.
I just realized that I forgot to put out the polls today for the Underdog. I got such a rhythm. I won't forget it a second time, I promise. But it was so fun because we could see who everybody really liked. So what I'm going to do is, before we go to this break, I'm going to drop one, just one. And everybody in the chat can tell us if they think it's going to be higher or lower. And do you want to pick one? Now, there was a mission to my madness here, and it was partially because I felt like maybe you, Howard Bender, have not heard enough great things about the Dallas Cowboys recently. So with that said, I decided to put CeeDee Lamb. Now, again, all you've got to go to Underdog. Underdog Fantasy offers new contests and chances to win every day. Play Pick'em by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite players' stats. Choose from MLB, NFL, PGA, and more sports. This week featured Thursday night football pick'em is the Giants quarterback Daniel Jones, higher or lower, 0.5 total yards. Just pair correct picks of Daniel Jones total yards with a correct higher or lower pick of any player from any other game to triple your fee. And $100,000 Sundays are back this weekend. Underdog Fantasy is giving away $10,000 to 10 lucky winners who use Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill's total yards pick of 91.5. 10 winners will be selected at random from all eligible customers who make an entry with that Tyreek Hill pick. All you need to do is sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog with promo code ALARM. First-time depositors get 100% match up to $100. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this out there before we go to break. And we're going to ask everybody in the chat, higher or lower? My Dallas Cowboys. By the way, I did a show the other night with Des Bryant. Luke Sawhook hosts this podcast with Des every Monday night. Got to be on with Des. So, of course, there was a lot of Cowboys conversation. A lot of Cowboys conversation.
Did he ask about me?
He did. He
Good.
asked about you. He knows that you're a Jets fan. He knows how upsetting that game was to you. But the total on Underdog for CeeDee Lamb is 77.5 receiving yards. Will it be higher or lower? That is a little food for thought on the break while everybody takes some deep breaths and realize that we're all here to have a good time. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on Bettor Sports Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
What can we expect from you out there on the track tonight?
Listen, I have a wife, 2 kids. I have, full-time jobs. I'm never nervous. I don't even know what that word means. Can you explain what nervous means? No. I'm ready to have fun. I've never done anything like this before. I got asked to be a part of this. This is fascinating. Like, it's so cool to just look around and see what goes on here. So I'm just excited to get out on the horse. And you want trash talk? Is that what you're asking me for? No trash talk. I hope everyone does well.
All right. Everyone's going to do well, but it has to be a winner. So give me your trifecta. Who's going to come in first, second, and third? Your heat.
I will go Maria 1, me 2, Willie 3, Moose goes 4th.
Well, it's very simple. I won this event last year. I won my heat, and so the defending champ has to be the favorite. Now, that makes me a little nervous just because I feel like it's hard to repeat. There's a little pressure when you're the favorite, but that being said, I'm still optimistic.
So your heat, it's you,
yes.
Moose and Keith from Bettor Sports Network, and Willie Colon.
I think Keith might be my stiffest competition, and I asked for this because I actually recruited Keith, if you didn't know. So Keith, if you win, you're welcome.
Malusis is very good. I mean, he knows what he's doing, but I'm going to go with Maria.
Keith is waving to the crowd. He must pay attention because they're off. It's Mark Malusis going for the lead. Maria Marino on the outside, and now Keith Irizarry on the outside with speed, and they're 3 wide into the first turn. Woo! Mark Malusis is locked in for his life. 138 and 2. They're into the stretch. Sportscasters Derby 2. And still in front, Keith Irizarry. And now Mark Malusis is trying to squeeze on through.
Come on! Hey! Come on! Let's go! Come on, dig it! Dig it! Yeah!
Keith Irizarry. Keith, you did it all the way, wire to wire, over Mark Malusis.
Awesome! That was so cool!
The champ is here! Keith, what was it like being out there? Adrenaline rush, you were doing the Instagram Live, so there was no panic. You looked cool, calm, collected the whole time, and you won it.
I felt really comfortable. I did. Like, I know you were joking with me before. Are you nervous? Are you whatever? What are you? David, the driver, was awesome. He's like, we're going to win this. I said, all right, let's win this. And he said, let's go. Yeah, I just felt really comfortable. I did. It was fun. We're in the lead. I got Maria Marino on the right side of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to beat us, right? And then out of nowhere, you see Moose coming up this way, and we feel him breathing down our neck. And I'm like,
Moose
no!
on the loose. Watch out.
Moose was definitely on the loose, and we just got Moose by a neck, a nose, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but again, all of this for a great cause, and it was absolutely awesome to do this. It was cool.
All right, Keith, congratulations, and no matter what, you could always hold this over Moose's head.
Yeah!
Groovy tune.
I'm
Feel it?
depressed, Lisa Ann.
What hit you on the break? I mean, it was 3 minutes. What just happened to you, Howard? We are back right here. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender. Make sure you're following Bettor Network and Fantasy Alarm on all social. Make sure you're utilizing Fantasy Alarm to be just a bit smarter. Have all the news that you need in one place. This is important because there's so much information out there. Don't you just want it right there? Why are you depressed, Howard?
I'm depressed because while we were on the break, I was like, oh, you know what? Let me get a little jump on some waivers work.
On the
Right?
break? Really?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm kind of just scoping it out. And, and so like, just dropping Nick Chubb just hurts my soul. Like, I don't even have like IR spots to put him on at all. I mean, so
And
it's
there's
like,
no sense.
glass case of emotion.
There's no sense in putting him on an IR spot and wasting it, because guess what? We might be having this conversation next Wednesday about who you need that IR spot for, somebody with a short-term injury.
I'm so sad, right? Like, I mean, it's like sad. I'm like putting in waivers. I'm like,
it's trash out there.
Whatever.
Well,
What's the
Howard is
point?
sad. So
There is no God.
The only way to turn that frown upside down is to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So everyone in the room that we're chatting with right here, because this is all about Underdog Fantasy. All right, are you following them at Underdog Fantasy on Twitter? I know I am. We have a lot of hires in this room. We know the Dallas Cowboys will be facing the Arizona Cardinals. And 77.5 receiving yards sounds like a walk in the park for my friend CeeDee Lamb. What do you think? I'm going higher, but that's because I have a lot of hope.
But I'll go higher here also for CD. I think that, I mean, 77.5 receiving yards is okay. I had to get Bowden to kind of pump the brakes a little bit today, because I said genuinely, like, after he started talking about how, Dak Prescott was going to be his quarterback in DFS, and he was going to stack him with Lamb, and he was going to stack him with Pollard, and I was like, I mean, what do you genuinely believe the score is going to be of this game? And I think he said something in the neighborhood of like a 42-7 sort of a thing. And I was like,
okay.
Well, I was like, do we really think that Dallas is going to, like, is this a college game where they're going to run up the score? Like, I think Tony Pollard could have a phenomenal game, but Dallas isn't going to need to pass the ball heavily. So I think CD will get his just because he gets, great volume. And in the first half, he could find the end zone, and we'll be fine with that. But I'm not looking at this as like, this is like some like, everybody's going to have 150 yards and multiple touchdowns like Jim does. So, but
Jim doesn't realize, as a Cowboys fan, that you kind of jinx us when you do that stuff. It's too much. You know what I mean? You're going in too heavy. But let's talk about Trevor Lawrence. Down week last week. At Underdog Fantasy right now, 251.5 passing yards. Now, I do have a lot of Trevor Lawrence.
I do,
and
too.
what also that means is Calvin Ridley. So I'd like to say higher because that's what I want. But do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to go higher this week of 251.5?
Ah, man. I mean, it's Houston, and I mean, 251, that's a tough number, because it's not that, he doesn't have to have a great game for it. And they're playing Houston, and that they're going to run with ETN. They're going to run with Bigsby, because that's how you beat Houston. So I don't think it needs to be a big passing game for Trevor Lawrence, but this number seems still a little on the low side. So I'll say higher, but I think Trevor Lawrence can just, 265, 2 touchdowns would be more than enough for him. So, I'll say higher. I'll go with the higher on that for you.
So we're still going higher, but you're just not looking for 300 yards. You're like, hey, it could be 5 or 6 yards higher.
Yeah,
and that's
we'll
realistic.
be sensible about it.
So these are the 3 that I picked. I'll give you my third. Then you can give us the 2 that you picked.
Okay.
The reason I picked DeAndre Hopkins, 58.5 receiving yards, higher or lower at Underdog Fantasy, is because it makes me sad to see that few yards for DeAndre Hopkins. Now, on the season so far, D-Hop has 11 receptions for 105 yards. We didn't expect massive numbers with Tannehill for D-Hop, but I think we expected a little bit more than this.
I think we definitely expected more than what we're seeing right now, and it has been a little disappointing. I do feel, though, it's more Tannehill than it is D-Hop, and I think that's what the problem is. against the Browns, it's a great secondary, and they have a really strong pass rush. I'll say lower on this one here. I'll side with you on the lower aspect. I mean, I think it's depressing, whatever. I just much would have preferred if Hopkins had signed with Cleveland, so he could be with Deshaun Watson.
Sure.
The two of them could have reunited,
and it feels so good. We should do a duet next year at the Fantasy Expo for the karaoke night.
Okay,
we can do that song.
I'll do that song. I'll put on like a 70s tux to do that, like a rust colored 70s tux.
Did you do karaoke this year?
No. I ducked out nice and early before doing that, because there are some people there like Britt Flynn who actually can sing,
right?
And she's got pipes, and Jen Piacenti. That's another one are you a singer?
I'm not, and I think it's unfair to let actual singers in it because none of us can sing, and that's why you do karaoke, because it's so bad it's good.
It's right. But you know what? Yes, I will do that. I will make sure that my edible kicks in, and I'll be ready to groove.
And if I had to pick a solo song, I'm definitely going to do "Hit Me With Your Best Shot" by Pat Benatar.
For me, it's Kenny Rogers, "The Gambler."
Ooh. All right, be a gambling man right here. Underdog Fantasy. You pick 2 players for the higher or over segment. Let's see.
All right. Well, I put these in there for Underdog's contest. I'm sorry. I'm looking for it. I'm so Underdog has that contest that they do.
I can feed them to you.
Where if you put Tyreek Hill and his higher or lower 91.5 total yards, then you automatically get entered into their Sunday 100K contest. And the winner gets they give out $10,000 to 10 people based on that. So I was like, okay, let me see what I want to do. First off, with Tyreek and the 91.5 total yards, I went higher for him because I think that, he's an unstoppable guy. And as great as Denver's secondary is, it's still Tyreek Hill. And who's to say that, Patrick Surtain or, somebody else from the secondary doesn't, come down with a case of the Miami flu while they're there on Saturday night, and all of a sudden they come out on Sunday and they're not at their top game. I've seen that happen when teams go down to play the Marlins in Miami. We've seen teams do that, against the Dolphins before. So I think Tyreek does just fine. I say he goes higher there. I put that into a contest with Justin Herbert, higher than 283.5 passing yards, because I think that this game between the Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings, I think this one turns into a huge barn burner.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Are the Chargers
right there with the hand?
Are the Chargers still going to lose? How do they do this?
I don't know.
How do they do? I mean, as a fantasy team manager, it doesn't matter. You're getting tons of yards from this offense. But when you look at the points that you have on your team, it makes no factual sense. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, it just makes no factual sense that they still lose.
It makes no factual sense that they lose. They're one of those teams that I stay away. I don't bet the Chargers during the regular season. I'll bet against the Chargers. If the Chargers are a home favorite by 6.5 points or more, I immediately take the underdog, because the Chargers never cover at home when they're a touchdown favorite. So the fact that, we're on the road now in Minnesota, at least Minnesota's defense really sucks. I don't know if the Chargers win this one here, but a nice, 48-42 game, that's right up my alley for these guys.
And you mentioned earlier, just mentioned Tyreek Hill. Also factor in the fact that if Jalen Waddle doesn't play, there's even more opportunity.
Even more targets
there. As if he needs more opportunity. The second player you put in was Justin Jefferson. 0.5 rushing and a receiving touchdown, higher or lower?
Higher. I put these things together because I was getting higher.
JJ.
Are you telling me that Justin Jefferson's not going to get into the end zone against the Chargers? arguably the worst pass defense right now in the NFL, giving up 333 passing yards already. I mean, dead last in DVOA defensive coverage numbers against the pass. You telling me Justin Jefferson's not going to find his way into the end zone at all? I say cock-a-poo-poo on that. And so give me Justin Jefferson higher than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. Give me Justin Herbert 283.5 yards higher than that, and mix that with the Tyreek Hill special right there. Winner, chicken dinner.
That is a really high tech, way you go about that. It's kind of like what I used to do, the beep, 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 beep. Remember the calculator thing we used to do?
The fantasy calculator was the
we
best.
have to bring that back. You loved that so much. Boop, 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 boop. Beep, 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 beep. I would do it manually. It was a manual calculator. We didn't have digital. So we were just doing this manually. But for everyone, the DK challenge, the link is going out. By the time we finished the show and I kind of broke down my office and was going back on waiver wire, I went to check it. It was already full for last week, which is amazing. 200 players in here. I'm going to admit that Thursday game, and I was so busy tinkering with my lineups. I was doing too many things last Thursday. And when the game started, I realized, this is a full slate. So I never changed. You know how you put a dummy lineup just to hold your team? You just click the cheapest players. The thing fills up. You got 20 grand left. You're like, all right, I'll get back to this. I didn't get back to it. So I'm kind of counted out. But shall we read last week's winning lineup? And all of you out there, it's on my timeline at The Real Lisa Ann. I even shot a video today promoting the challenge because I realized it's hard for people to sometimes read a caption. Then they ask questions about it. So I figured I'd do the video and the caption. You know what I'm saying, right?
Well played, young lady. Well played.
We have 71 people up in this thing already. And let's go with our history here. Okay. No, I'm having no luck. Let's go. I know I can do this. It's always so hard to do something while you're live on air, right? Do you have yours available? Let me see.
I believe I do. I'm going to DraftKings right now.
Okay.
And of course, now it's like, spinning the circle, trying to figure it out. Spinning the circle.
Yes.
Well, it's the worst for me is like I'll log into like the DK Sportsbook.
I've got it.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'd like you to know first and foremost, the most important factor is where I landed. I am in 192nd place out of 200. I have no one to blame with myself, but I think these things happen to a lot of us at the beginning of the season. You make a mistake where there's one lineup, you didn't go back and remove that player. You left someone on your bench, without not meaning to. The winner had 187.64 total points with quite a few flames. We like the flame emoji.
We love the flame emoji.
My entire team has frostbite. It's like they've been living in a cryotherapy chamber. I feel so bad for them. But he went for Jordan Love, which was kind of a risky play, but a cheap, right? You're getting a good price on Jordan Love. Jordan Love gave him 20.3 points. Christian McCaffrey, 25.5. Rashid White, 21.3. Puka Nacua, 33.1. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 18.2. Nico Collins, somebody we got to talk about. I drafted him and I've been playing him, and I'm so glad I have 30.6 fantasy points. Nico Collins was a monster last week. Luke Musgrave is a tight end, only 4.5. Keenan Allen in the flex, 34.1 points, and he got a 0 from the Rams defense and still took the win. High draw 69 is the team manager, and we'd love to see you all getting in this action with us.
Absolutely. Congratulations. I mean, it sounds like a great lineup. And yeah, I mean, listen, there are a lot of guys in there that I believe I had in the Fantasy Alarm playbook for DFS. I did not have Puka Nacua. I will admit that I did not have Puka Nacua in the playbook there. Whatever, whiffed on him a little bit, no big deal. But yeah, listen, that's I think I finished 102nd in the challenge. Why do we include the Thursday game? Why can't we just do Sunday, Monday?
Let's do that. I will do that starting next week.
You get so tied up with the Thursday game.
Throws off because it throws off the obsession of being able to tinker through the weekend too. I don't like Sunday and tinker. It's like one of those fun things. So we will switch that up moving forward. So this week it's going to be like it was because I already set it up. It's Thursday through Monday. Everybody got to get your game face on tomorrow. I'll send out a reminder tweet. The following weeks, though, I will just do Sunday, Monday because it's a ton of fun. We know that I think you agree it's going to be a lot of loading up on that Chargers game we were just talking about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to go in that direction. Obviously, highest game total on the board. Everybody's going to immediately flock to that. I think there are some other really good places to go for DFS this weekend. Where like, I mean, if you're doing the contest like us, just our contest, and it's just 200 people, then I feel like, you treat that much more like a cash game lineup than you do a GPP lineup. You get like the high floor, zero fat lineups, and you end up doing, that for it. And so you have to get a little chalky with, a lot of the Chargers and the Vikings. If you're looking to kind of differentiate yourself a little bit and kind of skew into some other directions, I love Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews against the Colts. I think the Colts secondary is terrible. I love Kenneth Walker in Seattle as the running back there. I will use Tony Pollard in the Dallas game there. I will go less on those guys and more on that aspect, and then try to find a couple of other spots where you can kind of sneak in a couple of guys. I think Atlanta's got some sneaky was it CJ Gardner-Johnson, the safety, free safety for Detroit, is on IR. So losing him in a secondary that really wasn't that strong to begin with. Remember they traded Jeffrey Okudah in the offseason to Atlanta. Yum, like Jeffrey Okudah, if he plays this week, would love to see that kind of revenge game narrative. But I feel like, everybody just looks at like Bijan Robinson and says that's what it is. This might be the week that you could throw Kyle Pitts into your lineup. Nobody's going to play him. And I think he actually find some success. I also don't hate Mac Hollins against this Detroit secondary either. So I feel like there's some like sneaky upside there with Atlanta. I've turned into the biggest Atlanta Falcons fan in the world. Maybe it's Bijan. I don't know. I just, when a team grabs a player who I really, really like, I end up latching on. I latched onto the Falcons when they signed Alex Mack, the center. And I was like, oh, that was the year they went to the Super Bowl. And so I was like, I'm in on that. And now Bijan here. So I think you get some sneaky contrarian moves in that department.
There's been a very interesting development in this DFS conversation. I think it's something that really deserves acknowledgement. Better Boss landed in the number 2 spot in last week's DFS challenge.
What's his lineup? I want to hear the Better Boss's lineup.
Let's talk about it. Better Boss. Oh my gosh, you were so close. I mean, you had 17608. And the leader was only less than 10 points more than you. This must have been devastating. I know how hard you worked on this lineup. I wish we could give out prizes for number 2, but we're not even giving out prizes for number 1. So don't feel bad. Okay, so Matt played Baker Mayfield. That was ballsy.
Gross.
I like it, though. I like it. He gave him 21.3. Derrick Henry, by the way, flame. Derrick Henry, 18.5. Rashid White, 21.3. T. Higgins, big day. And guess what? T. Higgins' price has gone up on DK. 28.9. Mike Evans right there, 32.1. So you do that little stack. Devonta Smith was the play last week because A.J. Brown was not. Devonta Smith, 26.1. Gerald Everett, 7.7, which is kind of fine for tight ends at this point. Deebo Samuel, 22.1. And he got a -2 for the Raiders defense. Matt, what an awesome lineup. Congratulations. You win nothing.
You know what? Matt Deutsch here. I can give you $250 and a subway token, and you can get a ride there in New York.
Nothing! You've done nothing! Nothing!
Get nothing, but I will switch up the DFS challenge. I will make sure. I don't even think I emailed Matt the link, but he gets it on the show program. I got to CC him in that email. But we have a couple questions before we get to the rest of the show. Byron wants to know, what about Devontae Adams against the Steelers secondary?
I'm okay with it as long as Devontae Adams is back from, he left the game. I think he they put him in concussion protocol. I mean, listen, as long as he's playing, I'm perfectly fine with it. He sees a boatload of targets. Yeah, Steelers secondary is definitely good. But I mean, I don't think it's unstoppable. I think, Adams is just that type of player. He could still get great separation, still a very crisp route runner. So yeah, I'm good with that. I'd use him.
And one more here. Should I be worried about Madison? When you say worried, who else do you have in your lineup that maybe you could sit him down for a week or two? Would you be opposed to doing that, even though you may have drafted him in a spot where you feel like you should still be playing him, Howard?
I'm dealing with that right now. I have Madison in one league, and the question is what am I doing with him because of this Cam Akers trade? Also makes me, a little crazy. But Chargers defense in general is bad. Giving up over 190 rushing yards per game. I think they've allowed 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns. So, I think with the nonsense that Madison had to deal with, he's got one of two ways. Either he's not going to show up and he doesn't want to play and he's completely disappointed in just humanity. Or he comes out there with a chip on his shoulder and says, I'm gonna kick your guys' asses and show the world that they can suck it with their hate. And so I'm kind of leaning towards just going to use them, especially if I don't have really that viable of an option. It's supposed to be a high scoring game. If he can pound, a touchdown in from the one, I'd be cool with that.
And moving forward to everybody on social media, when it comes to direct messages, you can set up your account so specifically. No one can DM me on Instagram unless I follow them and I start the conversation. So even if I'm following somebody and they send me a DM, it goes into a folder that I never even look into. If I engage first, then it goes into my actual folder. I have my messages on Instagram divided 5 ways, and I really only look at the main feed, so it's really doable. I really just don't need, because the horrible things people say on a public timeline,
oh my God,
once you let them go into the DM, it takes on a whole new level, and that's what we saw with that post. And I was glad that he shared it because I think it's very important for us to remember to reel it in. Don't be that person. And also to remind people what people are dealing with, what an athlete is dealing with, what somebody is getting, as if you didn't have bad enough day at work. Then you decide to go onto your phone and then you get something that is that vile. That's heavy.
It's disgusting.
And it ruins
really,
fans.
Really disgusting.
It ruins the word fan to the athletes because we don't want to be clumped into that group of people. We've got a question here. Drop Jaylen Warren, Sutton, or Gus Edwards.
I mean, dropping one of those guys, I guess I would probably drop Gus Edwards. I mean, it's a very murky backfield for Baltimore. I love Courtland Sutton, and you watch. Courtland Sutton is going to finish as the most targeted receiver in this Denver offense by the end of the year. And Jaylen Warren's in a great spot right now where he's getting the opportunity to supplant Najee Harris. So, I would probably, if I had to cut one of those guys, it would be Gus.
I agree with you on that one. No value. One more before we get to a quick break. Drop Elijah Moore, or Gainwell for Akers. I can't drop Elijah Moore.
Oh, see, I kind of have to. I mean, in this running back economy, I'm not going to drop Kenneth Gainwell. Come on.
In this running back economy, that's such a good. You're so right. You're right. Listen to Howard right there. You can listen to both of us. We get back. We're going to talk about some NFL spreads and totals. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
Like Devon Levi started off in the friend zone and now he could possibly be wife material. So it is exceptionally hard to trust a rookie goalie in the NHL. The kid is what? He's 21. Okay. and he is going to the Buffalo Sabres. But we've all agreed that the Buffalo Sabres are at least a somewhat better hockey team on paper. Again, it's hard to trust a rookie goalies. We've seen future Hall of Fame goalies like, Fleury in his first year struggle, right? Carey Price in his first year struggle. It is tough for goalies to come in and have success. That being said, nobody outside of maybe a Buffalo sports fan can tell me who the two goalies on their roster are, because I didn't know until this morning, until I was reminded that it was Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And I was like, okay, well, he has the crease to himself. So all he can do is lose it. That's all he can do. Buffalo is going to be a fun team to watch, which means maybe Devon Levi ends up in what I call the Martin Jones syndrome, which is a goals against average is pretty up there. Save percentage is not very good, but he's going to finish with 35 wins because he's just going to play a lot. And it's going to be that back and forth hockey. The Atlantic Division is not very good, right? There are some teams that are going to regress. So there's opportunities here for Buffalo to do well. And I think his over-under on wins is set at 24.5. So again, there's a lot of things that I may not trust about him, but as a 13th goalie off the board, and I think that is a reach at 13. I think a lot of people have him farther back than that. So he may be 13 on NHL.com's list, but you may end up and show up in your Yahoo or your ESPN draft and they haven't ranked probably outside of the top 20. So I would have no issue as a second goalie going with Levi, because who's taking his spot? Nobody. And volume at one point, if you're in a league that doesn't penalize you for losses, if you're in a league that rewards saves and save bonuses for daily, DraftKings does, he has all that working for him. So if it doesn't work out, all right, fine. Then you can go and pick up whoever is there. But it is his net to lose. I understand the risk. I will definitely take, because that's how you win championships, right? You got to take risks to win them. If you're safe, you're going to finish, eliminated in the first round and you had a good time. Or you can try to win the championship on draft day.
And we are back right here. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. I want to remind you to start a free trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. Howard, let's talk about some team totals, point spreads to watch. Miami, Denver. Russell Wilson had some decent moments last week. Are you feeling it? I mean, I don't have him on any teams. I'm not playing him in DFS yet, but there were some moments where I was like, maybe this guy can still play football.
I guess it's kind of a work in progress. I don't really know what the hell happened last week, right? They were up 21-3 at the half. I had Denver -3.5 the entire time because I was just playing percentages. And I was like, damn, I got this shit in the bag. I'm feeling good about it. And then all of a sudden it was like garbage. Like the defense crumbled, and I don't know. I just don't know what happened in that game. This game here this week, I'm kind of eyeballing it here. Miami's a 6.5 point favorite. I think the over-under is like 48 on this one here. So, I look at this and again, you wonder about what Denver's mental state is after losing, the first two games at home. Miami is a very tough team. Mike McDaniel knows how to prepare his team. Like they know. So I'm kind of like, I'm on the fence. I'd almost say I'm going to take the points because I do think that Denver can score and I do think they can be successful. I like Javonte Williams. I love Cortland Sutton. I might take the points for Denver, but I think Miami wins this game.
The next one right here, we've got Houston, Jacksonville. Jacksonville has the -8.5.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I think that a lot of people, it's tough because it's a divisional game. And, you always worry about the backdoor cover with like an 8.5 point spread. But for the same token, as Jacksonville did not look good against Kansas City last week. And I think that's going to be fresh in a lot of people's minds. And they're going to automatically be like, I'm taking Houston in the points because the Jags really weren't that good. Jags are that good. They are. And so, I look at this, I'm leaning towards taking the Jags and laying the points. It's probably going to be a no bet for me, but I do find it to be a little bit suspicious. A little bit.
It's funny. Last week was the first time I actually said, wow, Kansas City has a defense.
Yeah.
It's making
Spags,
it a
man. Spags a good dude.
Yeah, it's making it a different game. It's making it a game where Patrick Mahomes no longer has to put up 5-6 touchdowns to win the game, because the defense is actually showing up and makes a huge difference. Having Chris Jones back was first quarter, not so much. Rest of the game, oh yeah, Chris Jones deserved that bag of money.
Yeah, 100%.
The next one here, one of your new sweetheart teams, Atlanta facing Detroit. Detroit's favored -3.5.
It's in Detroit too, right? I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm a little concerned about Amon-Ra. I do like this Atlanta defense. I'm gonna take Atlanta and the points. I am. Even if Detroit wins this game, they're not gonna blow out the Falcons. They just don't have the defense to contain, Bijan and Algier and Drake London, and we'll see what happens with Kyle Pitts this week. I'm taking Atlanta, and I'm gonna take the points there, especially if I'm getting that extra half point. I love the hook. The hook is nice.
Yeah, the hook is very nice. Hook here with two teams matched up, both with a 1-1 record. No Nick Chubb. Everyone already knows. Tennessee, Cleveland. Cleveland -3.5.
So I'm leaning Cleveland because I think that everybody loves betting on Mike Vrabel as an underdog. And you've got the Derrick Henry factor, but you've got a great defense there in Cleveland. A great defense. Now, you don't want to run on Tennessee, so almost like Jerome Ford not having a big game isn't going to matter. This is all going to hinge on Deshaun Watson. And let me ask you this: you were watching the game on Monday night. The two face masks, putting hands on an official, like he's kind of coming off like a dick, right?
It's really surprising because this was not his MO ever before.
No, never.
Excuse me. And you feel like, you've fought to come back. First of all, his play doesn't have the uptick that I thought it would. Now we understand 2 years out of football, everything else, that's a lot, right? But it was unusual to see him at that level of frustration.
Yeah.
And not reeling it in, right? It was a bizarre chain of events. I don't know what to make of him yet. I want to give Deshaun till week 4, week 5, but now this changes the dynamic of the whole team that relied so much on Nick Chubb to adjust. Yeah, they got Jerome Ford there. I get it, but Deshaun just seems a little bit out of his element still. Do you agree?
I agree completely. I do. And I wonder if all of a sudden it was like, shit, Nick Chubb is gone. Now everybody's going to look to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, before it was like, yeah, we just give the ball to Nick Chubb and just let him run. Everything's going to be hunky dory. Now, all of a sudden it's like, shit, there's pressure on me now. I didn't want that kind of focus, but you know what? When you sign a contract like that and command that kind of money and it's all guaranteed, you are under a microscope. So you got to keep your shit together, right? You got to be able to just think clearly through it and realize that I do now have to put this team on my back and I can't let frustration come through. And this is going to be this is a character thing for Deshaun. I think because there's talent on that Cleveland team and he's got talent on his own. So I think this is a character test here for Deshaun Watson. I would very much like to see him succeed.
I think we all would, but this is week 2, man. You can't be that frustrated. You can't be messing with the refs because guess what? You're going to face them again through the season, and this could become an ongoing problem. We know there's refs in the NBA that we won't even gamble those games when they're like, Chris Paul has this ref that they don't get along. It is a variable that you have to consider, and you don't want that variable working against you. So it's just cooler heads hopefully prevail. You think Cleveland takes the win in this game?
I mean, they have to if I'm gonna take Cleveland and lay the points.
Yep.
Then they're gonna have to. And so if Deshaun can ball out against Tennessee, a team that he's faced a couple of times, back in the day. I mean, granted, it was 12 years ago. No, it was 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
5.
But still, I think, this is going to be a big character test for him. If Deshaun steps up, Cleveland wins this game, yes, and covers.
And the last one here for spreads to watch is Chicago KC. KC -13. Again, I mentioned KC's defense. KC does not look like the KC we've known. Maybe taking a little bit longer for the season. Maybe it was the Travis Kelce being out the first week, but it hasn't been the exciting, fast-paced football that we're used to from Patrick Mahomes.
No. And, and Casey's had a lot of trouble covering the spread at home over the last couple of seasons, right? That's one of the reasons why they kept calling it Burrowhead Stadium, because, the Bengals were kind of dominating there. So, but I mean, again, this is such a mess in Chicago right now. There's plenty of talent with Justin Fields. We love DJ Moore. I don't know if Darnell Mooney's going to be back, but and then there's like this hodgepodge in the backfield here. I mean, I hate laying 13 points. It'll probably be a no bet for me, but I would not be surprised to see Kansas City win this one by 2 touchdowns.
Let me ask you how surprised you were to see Chase Claypool waltz into the end zone last week.
I was stunned. I was like, wow, that dude's still playing?
What? We wrote him off at camp. Every beat reporter was like, Chase Claypool's not looking good, not vibing. Completely forgot about Chase Claypool. And of course, so many shares of DJ Moore. I felt like, how could you do that to me, buddy? I've never done anything to you. I really needed DJ Moore to get there. But we have to not forget that Chase Claypool is there and is definitely going to be an outlet for Fields.
No. I'm not going to go to the Chase Claypool route. I won't do it. I think I have him. I think I saw some pictures of him, some photos from the fashion shoot in France, where he was like wearing crab rangoons on his feet. Right? Like, I think I picked him up as like a last pick in best ball just after seeing that photo, but I'm not going to do it, Lisa. You can't make me.
I do have him in a couple of best ball leagues. I'm not going to lie. I might, just for the fun of it all, play him in DFS this week because he has to be cheap, even though maybe he's not because he got a touchdown. But let's talk about the highest game totals. And first, let's mention the fact that I'm very disappointed that the Dallas Cowboys aren't in this list. But the first one on here is, of course, the Chargers-Minnesota game. Total points right now is 54.
It's like Yosemite Sam busted into the saloon and he's shooting his gun. Like that's if you wanted to equate a game to a cartoon character, that's what it's going to be. It's Yosemite Sam popping off, going absolutely bonkers in this one.
And we know JJ's going to get in there. We know probably Mike Williams will get in there. We know Keenan Allen's alive and well and thriving. It was an old man's weekend last Sunday. A lot of old men get in the end zone. I absolutely loved it. Mike Evans and Keenan Allen. Chicago, Kansas City, the total points on this one is 48. How good do you think Justin Fields can do in this situation, especially now that we know he's going to be dealing with this weird press conversation? When new players, younger players get into this, I said the wrong thing once. Look, Zach Wilson was pretty much canceled for saying the wrong thing once at a presser.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, if you think that Chicago is going to be a super dysfunctional team, I'm taking the under on this game because, 31-10, 31-14, that's still kind of, it keeps it on the under, for that game. And I think that, if you think Kansas City is going to beat them by 2 scores, you're kind of looking, that's what you're looking at for the final, right? Something like that, 31, 35. I think the majority of these points, of the 48 points that it could be scored in this game, are going to be done by Kansas City.
Jeff Scrimp Daddy is in the room, came in a little late, was either barbecuing, fishing, or working. Great that you're here. I know you're going to catch up and watch the beginning of the show, but he agrees with you that Chicago is super dysfunctional. So Kansas City. Last week, I played Tooney again. All the talks. I just felt like Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, even though Tooney had a horrible week one, they're going to go right back to him. I was happy with his performance. I think that he is going to get a lot more targets this week as well. We've seen players have bad outings and then pull it together for the rest of the season. I mean, he's not my favorite wide receiver. I mean, I don't love him. I'm not making trades for him. I'm not offering Puka for Tony. But I'm just saying, there's a lot more offense there than we think about because he just spreads the ball around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and when you play like, DFS, you can just, if it's not just like a Mahomes Kelsey stack, then you can just play, naked Mahomes, right? I mean, you don't need to put him in with everybody because you don't know where he's going to go. Listen, I'm not going to totally give up on Kadarius Toney. I put him in the DFS watch list just because, the things can happen. You got Matt Nagy, who is back as the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He was just let go by the Chicago Bears. So, maybe there's like a little bit of we all know that Nagy loves his little gimmicky stuff. So maybe we see a little Kadarius Toney razzle dazzle.
Let's do some razzle dazzle. I like the pizzazz on the razzle dazzle. All right, another team total here that's high. It's 48 points for the Denver-Miami game. We think this is going to be another high-scoring game. You taking the over or the under when you talk about 48 total points right here?
This one's a tough one for me. It's like right there on the money. I could totally see it finishing on the 48 on the dot.
Which would mean this would be a stay away for you.
Yeah, probably. If I, like betting what I want versus what's actually going to happen are two totally different things. And I want this game to go over. Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton. I've got plenty of shares of Tua. I've got some Jalen Waddle. I don't have any Tyreek Hill, which is kind of a bummer. I got me a little Raheem Mostert.
A little mustard.
So, I'm kind of at that spot there where I want it to go over, but I won't bet it because I'm still a little nervous.
And that is the smartest advice we can give is if you're unsure about something and you don't have that hunch, just stay away from it. There's enough games to choose from to get some action, to not force out some action. Let's talk about the misses team. Now, Daniel Jones' comeback last week was it was a gobstopper. Okay, I was shocked.
Gobstopper.
I had it on my standalone TV because I could no longer just focus because there were too many things going on Red Zone. So I was like, let me watch this one solo. Never thought I'd do that for the Giants. So they win, and the missus is still not happy with you. What happened, man? That's usually when you get a little nookie.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I was incredibly bummed out. I was disappointed. So, here's the thing. Let's set the tone. Let's set the mood here. Because I'm a lovable guy. I'm a nice guy.
One of the most lovable humans I've ever met.
Thank you.
I wish you weren't a liar.
Deb. Brian Burns, why don't you use that sounder? It's great.
Anyway, so I'm watching the Jets game, the Jets-Cowboys game. I'm watching all the games, but I'm focused here on the Jets-Cowboys, and it's beyond depressing. It's beyond depressing because you know what it was like? This is how I equated it. When you're watching like a nature show and you see like a buzzard like picking at a carcass with its beak and it's just picking. That was like field goal. Like you were just picking away at the poor Jets. And the Jets are that carcass, that animal that's like laying there, baking in the sun, and it's like twitching. It's like, like it knows death is inevitable and it's just suffering through it. That's what it was like watching the Jets-Cowboys game for me. At the same time, through the first half of the game, Deborah is so pissed, so angry.
Is she vocal? Does she stand up and yell at the TV, or does she just sit there mad?
It's like being with like a sailor on leave sometimes. She's like, F this, F that. I mean, everything, like the New Yorker in her like really blossoms. And she's yelling and she's screaming. The dogs are getting upset. They're like a little nervous. So I said to her as that game was going on, and I'm watching the Jets just, bleh. I'm like, I'm going to go out to the shed. I'm going to take the dogs outside, and then you can just sit here and watch your game or whatever. Now I'm seeing it here on the TV also in on the computer. And I see the Giants starting to wage this comeback. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. And it's happening. No, that wasn't happening. So
Is that a zipper? That was a zipper.
Four times she comes out to the shed while I'm watching the Miami New England game. 4 times she comes outside to ask me if I saw the Giants come back and their victory. And so I'm like, she's in a great mood. I could use like a little like a pity throw because of the Jets and how awful that was. And so I go to the game's over and I'm like, I shut down everything in the shed and I'm like strutting to the house, right? I'm like, yeah. And I'm hearing it in my head. It's like an 80s heavy metal video, right? It's like Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me or AC/DC's You Shook Me All Night. Like that's what's going on in my head. And so like I go in there and I like swing the sliding glass door open.
Oh, like
and I'm like,
you've arrived.
right? Yeah, I'm like,
back from duty. Yeah.
And she looks at me and she's like, no, I'm not feeling it. You're not getting any tonight. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not getting any tonight? I was like, just throw me a pity one then because of the Jets, I was like, you don't even have to be into it if you don't want to, but I need somebody to make me feel better right now. And so instead of the Pour Some Sugar on Me video, I pour some sugar on myself in the bathroom later that night.
Well, thank you for that addition. Well, that's what you got to do. But I'm going to speak for Deb here.
Don't you dare side with her.
I think I know what happened. Okay?
Oh,
the first half of that game took so much out of her. Okay. It was so upsetting. Then let's not forget the Saquon injury, which was later. Okay.
Yeah,
but now the comeback starts to happen and she is emotionally exhausted. And by the way, she feels already satisfied because this comeback happened. So you didn't play a variable in that. And she had no needs to be met because her needs were met because it was such an emotional game. For you, hopefully this Sunday goes better. But the total on this game for tomorrow night, actually, so how does this work out when it's a Thursday? Because you have a busy day on Friday. You have early night because you get the games earlier on the West Coast. New York Giants, San Fran, the total is 45.
I'm not interested. I hope the Niners win 786-0. I do.
I love this. I've known this about you forever, that is the thing with Deb when the Giants win.
I'm hopeful on Sunday that if the Giants win, I have a great Sunday night. It has assuaged my problems with being a Jets fan for all this time is that I know that I married a Giants fan. She is going to win more than she loses, and therefore I am going to reap the benefits. No. Can I tell you, she even gave me the I feel bloated and gassy line too.
Like you care. Like you care.
I was like, oh, it doesn't matter.
No, it's just, she didn't have to go there. You know what I mean? I can't defend her there, but I do feel that there was a lot that went on during that game. There was a very emotional game. But what's your take on the Giants now without Saquon, even though it might be limited for just this game? Maybe he comes back for next Sunday. How do you feel about the squad in general? Daniel Jones pulling off that comeback was pretty miraculous.
Oh, it was unbelievably miraculous. And listen, Saquon had 2 touchdowns in that. And so that's a huge part of it. Matt Breida is not Saquon Barkley.
Never was.
Nor are they going to be able to turn around and game plan in the same way. So they're going to have to pull back from Breida a little bit, even though I joke around about the revenge game narrative. It's Matt Breida. He'll be hurt by the third quarter and then, whatever. So this really comes down to Daniel Jones and his receiving core. Yeah, see, exactly. Crickets, nothing there, because you say the Giants receiving core, it's like, they need Wan'Dale Robinson back. They need to give Jalen Hyatt more snaps. Darren Waller needs to stay healthy. Against the San Francisco defense, Lisa Ann, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for my wife's well-being, because she's going to watch this game, and it's going to be like when she watched the week 1 against Dallas.
Well, I'll say this. Darren Waller was definitely more of an impact week 2 than week 1. You're starting to see how that's really fitting together, but you're right. They're very limited. Saquon had the 2 touchdowns that the team had, but Daniel Jones putting up 321 yards is something I did not see coming.
No, I don't think anybody really saw it coming. I mean, we kind of thought, it was so funny too, because there was people who just said the Giants are going to crush them, and that's that. Then there were people who were like, the Giants are going to screw it because they're traveling across country, and it's just a setup for them. It's just like going to be a letdown. And they turn around and they come back and they win this one. I just don't know if this passing attack really has it in it to best San Francisco. The offensive line's dealing with a crazy good pass rush. And, that it bodes well for Daniel Jones rushing yards prop, which I don't even know what that is right now. But I know that Underdog's doing like Daniel Jones over half a yard as like a power booster there. Because I do think that when, the pass rush is chasing him around, he's going to take off. So I kind of think that in the case, but this is going to be ugly, and I'm not going to care. And if she wants, a little comforting or anything like that. Nope.
We got 2 things that are great here. Brian Burns, thank you so much for being such an awesome producer. Puts it in the chat right away. Daniel Jones rushing yards, 37.5. Without Saquon, I say he's using his legs. We saw some big rushing days for Daniel Jones last season. And then Jeff, so I don't know if you remember, I do a bench MVP where it's like, I give an award to my bench players. So Scrimp Daddy's bench MVP was Daniel Jones. How many points was that, Jeff? I can only imagine how many bench points that was. That hurt your soul so much. And Daniel Jones rush yards over 75 plus 700. Yep, but I look, 37.5 is not much, and I think he'll do it.
37.5, I think he'll do it as well. I say higher.
I say higher. And to all of you, we hope that you share. Now, look, on YouTube, pretty easy. You can go in and share. You can hit that little thumbs up thing, like it. Make sure you're subscribed at Fantasy Alarm on the YouTube channel, as well as at Bettor Network. We're here every Wednesday night, and I cannot believe that it's already week 3. It's starting to feel a little bit like fall in the Northeast. We could get a weird summer. I'm prepared, because Saturday, it was fall, and Sunday it was summer. Saturday, I couldn't go to the pool because it was too cold out. Sunday, it was blazing and I was at the pool. So we don't know what it is, but it feels like football weather, and I love it.
I do love me some crisp football weather. I'm not going to lie.
And you're feeling it up there. 48.7 bench points. That's what Jeff had on 48. Oh my gosh, Jeff, I'm so sorry. I know that was really tough, but I get it. You didn't want to play Daniel Jones. You probably put him in your lineup and you realized he gave you Ajita and then you took him out of your lineup. We completely understand that. Brian giving the countdown. We got 1 minute here. So I'll remind you all of all the big stuff. Go over to Underdog Fantasy, sign up, go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog, promo code alarm, get you 100% deposit match for up to $100 for first time users. And for all of you, we appreciate you being here in the chat. We will hopefully give you the best information always, but you need to be signed up at Fantasy Alarm to keep that consistent info going. Howard, I love spending Wednesday nights with you.
Right? This is like so much fun. It really is. Like I love chilling and like doing a show like this. It's
I like it because I listen to you beforehand while I'm making my dinner, and I feel guilty that you're working and I'm making dinner. And then I get in here early and I just wait for you to pop in that little window. But we appreciate all of you so much. Make sure you're following at RotoBuzzGuy. You're following at Bettor Network, at Fantasy Alarm, and we will see you here. And that is my timer. It is time to go. We will see you here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Thank you all. Lisa Ann, Howard Bender right here. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on Bettor Network and Fantasy Alarm.